discussion? The General Assembly has casted their vote, and with this, they have decided that the Vice President of Education should be you. So, congratulations. Furthermore, we move on to the election of the Vice President of Public Relations. PC has received one application from Frederica Tiora, proposed by GPSF Greece, seconded by Ambassador Romania. With this, I would like to ask Frederica to come to the front and present her speech. Their speech.
I would first like to thank you for taking the time to go through my application and consider it for today. Dear General Assembly, as I said already, and probably some of you heard, I would like to thank you for taking the time to go through the application and consider it. I would like to be short with this speech and only highlight certain points that I think from my application could actually help you take this decision today. The most important of those would be my previous experience in student associations over the past 6.5 years. During that time, I have held different leadership, management, and executive positions. I have also worked in PR, IT, design, and visual identity projects, and I have even managed PR teams, such as during my mandate as Speaker of the Committee of Public Relations for EPSA Europe. Another important point on there would be my EPSA experience, which I mainly gained through the previous mandates and the current mandate as IT Coordinator of the EPSA team. And during that time, I basically got the understanding of the inner workings of EPSA, and especially of those of the PR department. I believe that my combined experience, as well as the understanding that I have of the topic, will provide me with all the necessary tools to be able to undertake this role. And other than that, I only hope that it is up to your decision to judge. With this, I would only like to thank you for your attention so far, and I'm looking forward to your questions.
Thank you, Frank. Now we have the floor to GPSF Greece.
EPSA Greece. Dear General Assembly, GPSF is a tuning ground to propose today the chair of the position of the Vice President of Public Relations. The delegate has proven itself to be a hardworking, valuable addition to the Public Relations Department for the past 2 years, with their innovative ideas and general contribution to the team clearly visible. The insight into the Public Relations Department and the EPSA team in general, along with their long experience and success in other local, national, and international associations and groups, are a clear indication of the high level of work they are capable of doing. Their complete plan for the position, their crisp yet realistic ideas, their communication and organizational skills, and their strong motivation and dedication to EPSA make them a great candidate for the Vice President of Public Relations position. Thank you for considering the next application.
Thank you. Now we have Ambassador.
Dear General Assembly, I come in front of you today to express the trust that FASFR has in Frederica application for the Vice President of Public Relations application. First of all, I want to emphasize the fact that Frederica has been involved in EPSA and other student organizations for a really long time, holding her first official position in 2016, which not only shows that she has a lot of experience in this regard, but also she is very dedicated to NGO activities and organizations. To further point out her abilities in the public relations field, we believe that she has developed the right mindset and necessary set of skills through her experiences in IT and PR subgroups, but most importantly as IT coordinator for EPSA from 2020 until now. Moreover, by applying for this position, we believe that she has a lot of motivation to further help develop EPSA, as she has very clear plans towards the organization of the PR department, PR subcommittee, and her attributes as EPSA executive. In conclusion, summing up the arguments that I presented to you, I can assure you that Philosopher puts all its trust in Frederick. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you. Now I open the floor for questions. KMPSV.
Jason KPC, Dennis, thanks for the application. In your nomination form, you mentioned centralized or task management in a single tool so that we have a better overview of our progress. Could you elaborate much? Could you elaborate? Could you elaborate? Could you elaborate on what you mean by a single tool?
Yes, go ahead.
Candidate. Indeed, this basically comes from the fact that so far the communication of between the department and also amongst other departments have been working via email in order to, of course, work on the knowledge management of how the tasks are fulfilled. But I believe on the side of that we should also have a tool such as Trello, for example, or generally a centralized platform where we can track basically both our progress in the tasks, but also to showcase it to the other departments in order to give them a better understanding of how their projects are being focused on.
Thank you. Next, Mrs. Budu.
This is Buda, Slovenia. We would like to know, did you notice some difficulties regarding this function in the previous mandate? Okay. And how are you going to solve them? Yes. Thank you.
Right.
Federici, PPPR candidate. I wouldn't necessarily characterize them as difficulties, as more like points that can be optimized in the function of the department. And that is because a lot of work is going through PR, as it is very obvious that basically all of the projects that need to face the external world and be promoted have to pass through the hands of the PR department. So those are basically the ones that I would like to alleviate and make easier for both the coordinators, the subcommittee, and also the department.
Turning off towards the people from the back, please. The speakers and also the candidate, please speak higher, and also your microphone more close to your mouth, so that all the meeting secretaries can minute properly. Thank you. Then we have Annette.
Johan France, how are you planning to overcome the issues of short deadlines that the LSEs experience for promoting projects this year?
Federici, PPPR candidate. I think this is a multifaceted issue. The most important one would be to establish more frequent communication with the member associations, both from our side so that they know ahead of time what is being going on and what they would be expected to be promoting. But also from your side, basically, so that we can understand your capacities and how fast these things can be shared. But I think, of course, it doesn't stop there. It also starts with a general better time management, both in the implementation of the projects and also through the communication with the team, so that we can make sure that we are also staying on our deadline, so that you can also be followed on our projects.
Thank you. Okay, then we have SOP Denmark.
Jasmine South Denmark. Thanks a lot for your application. We have total trust in your qualification and motivation. However, I have a question. You have mentioned in your application that you would create a team environment, and I want to know how you're going to promote good group dynamic, as it actually matters a lot in EPSA. Thank you.
Great.
Federici, PPR candidate. I think also it's quite complicated, but I will give you some of the ideas that I already have. But first I would like to mention that in dynamics it usually depends on the actual team. So the first step there would be to get to know the people that are elected in the department and assess their needs and also the way of working. And then also try, basically based on that information, to establish certain team building procedures in the beginning of our mandate. Those would be both to become basically members of the team on the regard that they can work together and understand each other and each other's needs while working, but also in the regard of the basically human connection that is needed so that they are able to communicate more efficiently. I think that can be done with various different ways. The main ones would be to firstly start by contacting each other, have some common meetings together, but also some team meeting exercises or potentially even games together so that the communication can be facilitated and become easier.
Thank you. Next we have CZPSA.
Dominika CZPSA, Czech Republic. You mentioned that you want to optimize the PR offers for sponsors and externals, and do you have any specific ideas for how you want to do it?
Federici, PPPR candidate. I would first like to state here that this is not only my position, and this is something that should be done in collaboration with the VPR and internal PR department, because they will be the ones that are actually in contact with the sponsors. As far as the PR side of things goes, I think what should be done is to create some concrete documents that we can share with the sponsors of what we can offer and what are our capacities, but also on how this kind of promotion for them should be possible.
Thank you. Yes, we have Anna.
Anna, EPPR. So my question is, your coordinators go out of office at the same time for more than 2 weeks, and considering EPSA still has projects that need to be implemented, how do you think of this?
Great.
Federici, PPR candidate, clarification. Would we be aware of that, or is it something that is announced simultaneously by the coordinators? Because the response differs.
Yes, Anna?
Anna, EPPR, so they announce it to do your work.
That's great.
Federici, PPPR candidate, given that we would be aware of basically the situation and what would be happening, I would first like to work based on what we already have on the regard that we would be having a task management system already in place, and certain things would be expected of them in the period that they will be out of office, basically. Therefore, we will try to reorganize the schedule and the task management of our work so that the tasks that have priority in the period that they would be out of office can be worked on and completed, or at least in a level that they can be delivered on time. As far as the things that basically are tasks that will be worked on that time but have a later delivery date, then I think we should also work on basically dividing the workload around the already prioritized tasks. So some work can be done before they are out of office, and then it can be picked up on after they are back in office.
Thank you. The points that I have on my CV list are APEP, SFD, KMPSB, ANEP, ANA, and then ANEP again. Then we will proceed to APEP.
Josue, Portugal, thank you for your application. As you mentioned, the PR department has a huge workload. What are your plans regarding managing this?
Right?
Federici, PPPR candidate. The first part would be what I already mentioned, would be the centralized platform of managing the work, but of course it doesn't end only there. I think in general, since the beginning of the mandate, or if possible even before we actually started with our first meeting, we should be able to have a better plan of how to approach our tasks, and that would be basically a timeline of when we expect things to happen, because a lot of the projects that we are promoting, we know ahead of time that they will happen throughout the mandate. For that part, I would need and I would like to establish collaboration with the other departments in a more frequent manner, as I also mentioned in the nomination, so that we can expect better what will be the work on there. And therefore, we would be basically separating the types of tasks into two sectors. The ones that are more, that require a more immediate response, because the advocacy ones require basically to react rapidly. And then we would also be distributing more evenly throughout the year the workload of the expected tasks, so that we don't have too much work when we need to react rapidly on something.
Thank you. Next, SLD.
Lithuania. Thank you so much for amazing application. We would like to ask, what are the 3 most important KPIs that we could look forward to during your mandate? Thank you.
Federici, PPR candidate. First, small disclaimer from my side that strategy is something that is very dependent on the environment. So I cannot for sure promise you these KPIs, because I would also like to see the situation of the department before I actually, write my POA. But I think one of those should be for sure the management of the department. So I cannot give you specific numerics on those. Then that would be also one for the meetings or in the communication with the member association, because I consider it very important. And finally, the third one would be also the communication with the other departments, because those are the ones that I already know that should go.
And PSV?
Jason, EPSA General Assembly. You've stated in your nomination forms that you want to establish a PR spreadsheet for the year. Can you elaborate a bit on this idea? Are you going to make a spreadsheet and put it in an agenda, or what are you envisioning?
Right?
Federici, PPR candidate. Indeed, I want to do this kind of strategy, though I wouldn't simplify it as a single document, because basically what I mean with the PR strategy is firstly starting with the needs assessment. What kind of projects do we need to promote? What are their needs? What can be done about them? And based on that, then create basically concrete steps on their implementation, similarly to what I also mentioned in Josué about dividing the workload. And based on that, we could have then a final document that would more clearly indicate what exactly deliverables we will have over the year.
Anef?
François de France. What are the outcomes of your mandate as IT coordinator?
Right. Federici, PPR candidate. I almost said lady, sorry. As far as my outcomes from the IT coordinator mandate, I will refer to the last one, as I think it's more relevant. That would be the deployment of the website, which is basically out of happen, because it has already been submitted for deployment. We're just waiting at the moment. Then it would also be the revision of the procedures for IT, so that my successor can have a better understanding of all the processes that they will have to take care of. I will also mention basically the revisal also of the process and of the dry runs for the different events that we are having, so that they are more efficient and also more stable in terms of the streaming, for example. And finally, a smaller point, but I think it's also quite important, the registration procedure for the events. I also went through it and basically improved a little bit of how the automation was happening, so that we have better control over it.
Thank you. Next we have Anna, followed by Anna. Dropped. Anef?
Théo de France. How do you plan to manage your time between your work at the pharmacy, the university, and this position which requires a fairly large amount of availability?
Right. Federici, PPR PR candidate. Firstly, clarification on my work as the pharmacy. I'm basically the owner of it, so I only have some very general managemental tasks, not the day-to-day work of it. As I basically inherited it. Other than that, my university work is basically done. I'm only waiting to defend my thesis due to certain delays that we have over COVID because a lot of people are also in pharmacology like I was. So basically that gives me quite free to be able to focus on the VPR position.
Thank you. Next we move on to Maeva.
Alumni Coordinator on behalf of Sovina Petrashku. So, EPSA alumnus. Sorry, my hits. Okay, do you think you will be able to step out of the position and leave all the tasks for the next IT coordinator to handle, keeping in mind that you already had 2 mandates in that position and there is still some work left to be done?
Right. Frederic is the PPR candidate. I would expect so, and I cannot only base that on my expectation, of course. That's why I focused a lot on updating how the procedure should go for the handover, so that my successor will be able to take all the tasks fully after me. And as far as the non-technical part, the non-human part of the question comes in, I believe that whoever holds a certain position should have ownership of that position, and I want to respect that. With that in mind, I would like not to be involved in the implementations of the tasks and rather act as a leadership figure, as a manager for the IT coordinator of this mandate that is coming, instead of interfering with the
Seconded. We have a 9.3 proposed by BPSA, seconded by BPSA Poland. I open the floor for discussion on the 9.3. Abel? Engineer, please.
So I have a question. We still have some questions to get answered to, so we do not feel really comfortable right now to just close the discussion. Thank you.
We have a new point from the PSA.
So as the PSA UK, we believe the candidates answered quite a broad range of questions, and I think reading the room, it looks like everybody's ready to vote. Thanks.
I would like to ask the General Assembly if they feel comfortable to voting on the 9.3. Then I close the floor for discussion and we proceed to voting on the 9.3 procedural motion. Who abstains? Who is against? Who is against? Raise your votes up high. And who is for? So I have 0 abstentions, 4 votes against, and 19 for, which means the motion was carried, and with this I'd like to proceed to the internal discussion. Before I do that, please say your final speech.
Firstly, I thank all of you for your questions and the interest you have in the position. It really means a lot. And I would only like to mention one small thing. I consider indeed myself to be quite lucky and fortunate to be even possible for me to be here today and candidate for this position. And that comes from the fact that ever since I started studying pharmacy, I've noticed how much more can be done by and for pharmacy students, and I believe they hold great potential. And on that regard, this is why I started volunteering in the Student Association, first my local one, and even more so in EPSA. And this is like something that I would like to continue working on if you continue to